When I look back at some of my early attempts at nature journaling, I find a lot of stuff like this in very old sketchbooks. This one has three mushrooms on it, and I've just kind of plopped them on the page. I labeled the parts of the mushrooms, I labeled the common names and the scientific names, and sometimes I used to write notes about them and stuff, but that was kind of what I did. But I want to show you how to transform this page into something a little more spectacular like this page and take your nature journaling to a whole different level. And it's not as hard as you might think. I'm going to give you 10 tips in this video for how to go from there to here. And I'm also going to tell you about a new class in which I'm going to do this all year long in 2026. If you find this video after the class has already started, it's not live video, so you can join anytime and see any past content that has already been uploaded to the classroom. So let's get going on the shroomies. So I am a recovering graphic designer, if you can't tell. And there's nothing I like better than making a page that feels like it's united, that there's some sense of design to it. So my first tip is to tie the natural elements together, whatever they are. And you can do this while you're out sketching elsewhere. Instead of just stopping and doing one of these, maybe plan out. Do you see a lot more mushrooms around? And can you kind of get a general idea of how they relate to each other? So instead of just sketching them separately, you can sketch them together. Just put one right next to the other, group them in a particular way. 3 is a good number for groupings, by the way. But I'm grouping them and placing them so that the bottom of them would hit the ground, so I can draw some ground into the picture. I want to tip this one up. And, it's the way that it's built, it won't tip up. So I just took a kneaded eraser and stuck it underneath of it. Now, if you're taking pictures out there in the wild, you could take pictures of 3 different mushrooms at the same angle and then work from those to make a picture like this. Or you could sketch them at that angle, just get down on the ground so you can see the underside of them. Because with mushrooms, the part underneath is often like really fun to draw. Now, I've sketched these out. In the class, I'm going to talk about ways you can use your photography to help you with your drawing. So that'll be saved for later on. But anyway, planning the journal spaces. Now that I have my images kind of collected together on a little tiny round hillside, I'm going to put in a few elements. So one is just kind of cutting off the sides of the picture so that it's just going to be in a little bit from the edges, because not everything has to take up every bit of white space. Sometimes I have to plan that out to make myself save some white space. I almost made a curve at the top, and then I thought, oh no, maybe I'll go all the way to the sky with this. And then I wanted to drop in some boxes into which I could put a little bit of journaling. And I like to look up what the plant is, or the fungi in this case, and, a few fun facts about it, just learn something about it rather than here's a picture of a thing I saw. I like to write down what I learn. So for each of these, I had to kind of figure out where I'd squeeze in a box for journaling. This little guy caused me a little bit of trouble, but the other 2, I could do 2 boxes that would be about even. So I could plan those to be about the same height across and whatever width I have to do them. This whole thing probably could have been shifted over to the right a little bit, but it is what it is. It's a sketch. So I'm not looking for perfection, and I'm not teaching perfection in the class. I'm just kind of doing what makes me feel happy to do. But what I did was erase this little guy, and I redrew him because he was not really interacting with the other mushroom on the right-hand side. I wanted him, kind of part of him, to be in front of the stalk of the other. So I redrew him, just sliding him over. That also gave me a little more room for that box to put some text into, to put a little journaling in. And I didn't make it as tall as the other one because I didn't want all 3 boxes to look like they were too much in a row. And that one I planted in the ground. I just made the ground round at the bottom of it where the little mushroom went into the ground as well. So another thing I wanted to do was to stay loose throughout the whole process. Some people will, and it's not wrong if you do, since I'm going to have some lines in here, some boxes and that sort of thing. Some people will get very loose with the sketch itself, and then they'll get a ruler out and they'll measure the lines and they'll make everything absolutely perfect. I don't do that. I got to keep it loose. I try to make something that I can replicate in this kind of a style when I'm sitting on the ground looking at a mushroom somewhere. If I'm in a park or I'm, taking a walk or a hike or something, I want something that feels like I can do it out there. And if I have to start getting out tools every time I do journaling, I'm not going to be particularly happy with that. So just kind of letting my pen make the lines and get really wiggly, let some of them be broken, whatever. It doesn't matter a whole lot. I just want these fun mushrooms in my picture. And if you're somebody who, doesn't draw a lot, I want you to just go ahead and draw what you see. And it doesn't matter if it's perfect or not. One of the things about putting some design around these elements, it gives your page a little bit more coherence. And it doesn't really matter if your mushrooms come out cartoony, like they need eyeballs, then so be it. That's totally fine. Nothing has to be perfect. It's all about getting out in nature and documenting what you see. So I do that with my walks with my dogs all the time. I do that by going out all over the place. There's a lovely garden near me that I love to go to and walk around with my sketchbook and draw out there. But something like this, I could take my pen and my watercolors, and I could just draw it in pencil, sketch things out and take pictures, and then do the pen and watercolor work when I get back home. Or I could just sit down and do a loose drawing like this, no ruler, no nothing. Sometimes I make the lines deliberately wacky, just like wiggle the lines so that, the rest of them don't look crooked or broken or anything. Now you want to consider perhaps a page title for it. Kind of like in scrapbooking. I did scrapbooking many, many moons ago. And sometimes, especially if you have a space left, I've got a big empty space up here, and I'm going to put some lettering up here. And, I could put something very formal, mushrooms or something silly, but I just put silly. Silly is good enough for me. So I put my shroomies up there for my title and made the words go behind one of the mushrooms. Now, as I was doing this portion, I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do with that background because I was, deliberately making a box for myself to put something in. And I was thinking about that old joke, something about being a mushroom, that people keep you in the dark and they throw, shall we say, fertilizer on you. And I thought, I'll make that a really dark area so all of these mushrooms get, like kind of brought to the front by having some dark color behind them. And what that would mean is painting around these letters. And I did decide at the last minute to turn the eye into a little mushroom as well, because I'm silly, and that's okay. We can be silly. And in addition to, figuring out where all the letters are going to be, I had to think about, am I going to paint around them? Because I was going to do that in watercolor. Well, there's this thing called a white pen. And if you paint over something, you can always fix it with a white pen. There's no rules against doing anything like that in nature journaling. So for me, nature journaling is all about the story. And there's going to be a lot of that in the new class. Just telling stories about the things that I see in the world around me and bringing those into the journaling, bringing those into my drawings, and helping you to do the same. So if that's the kind of journaling you want to do, the ability to capture those stories, then please do consider joining me for the class. Anyway, so I was looking at the undersides of these. Both of them have different shapes. One of them is kind of concave and the other is convex with all those gills around it. So I drew the lines different directions because of that. And then this little guy is called a bonnet. Believe it or not, a bonnet mushroom, this little tiny baby. And it has, like, instead of one stalk, it has these kind of floppy things that look like noodles. It was very weird. At first, I thought I broke it when I pulled it out of the ground, but apparently they all have that. So, another tip is to use natural colors. Now, a lot of people will say, "Oh, I see some pink in that long, tall, skinny mushroom. So I'm going to put some really bright pink in there." Well, I dirtied my pink up because I don't see bright pink in there. I see a dirty pink. And this other one has a little more brown in it, but it's got a pinkish tinge to it. So, I painted a brownish color in there. The places to put your bright colors, unless it's a bright flower that has literally bright colors, would be maybe in the background or in some of the design elements. But the natural elements, you're not always going to see super bright colors when you're painting things out in nature. And especially with these mushrooms, they're not like, well, I guess there's some mushrooms that are like bright red and have, really bright colors on them. But if it doesn't have those bright colors, then make the natural things the natural color. And then you can, go crazy with the design around it, that kind of thing. I'm also looking at the contrast that I can get. The underside of this mushroom is, darker. So I'm going to paint some lines in between. I'm not trying to paint in between the pen lines that I drew. I'm just kind of scribbling little lines in there. Not trying to be really super crazy about details here. And I had it added a little shadow underneath of it. The other little baby mushroom is the same color but lighter, so I can use that same paint and then, paint different layers on top of it and try to see if I need to just keep dabbing off color in order to get it to look right, that sort of thing. And to lighten the color, all you do is add more water or put less paint down or just wipe some back up. The stalks of these are more on the yellow side. And I did get like a weird color as I was starting to mix these yellows, but I didn't sweat over it. I didn't, do it 10,000 swatches to find out if it was going to be the right color. I just wanted something that felt yellower than the pink underneath of the cap, like those pink gills. So, just dab off some color and you'll get a really light version of whatever you painted. So, if you get a color that's too dark when you start mixing, don't sweat it. Like, I think don't sweat it could probably be my mantra for nature journaling in this class and everything, because nature journaling is for your own use. It's not like something you're going to, I don't know, frame, put in a gallery, any of that kind of thing. It's not like anybody's going to hold you accountable for, oh, you didn't do that perfectly. And a lot of people don't want to do nature journaling because of that. They want to do everything right. And there isn't a right or wrong. And even in the class when I teach things, it's not as though I'm going to be, somehow teaching you the right way, that there's a formula to follow at all. But we're just going to have fun in the class. So here I mixed up a brown color, and browns and grays can be mixed with red, yellow, and blue, like different combinations of them. Just mix the puddle until it looks kind of like what you want it to. And then using some clean water out of my jar, just let that kind of fade off at the bottom. Now you can add punch with contrast. And one of the things I've discovered on social media, if you have ever noticed, when there's anything, any piece of art that gets a lot of attention, often it's either super bright colors, but it's really contrast, even more than color. Now, if the color has, rainbows in it, shooting out of its eyes, then yeah, okay, that's going to be, popular. But other things, if you're just looking for what kind of things catch people's attention, and if you're doing this because you want people to look at your work, then put a little color in it, put a little strength into it, a little contrast. So here I started with a green at the bottom, and then I wanted to kind of slowly morph up toward the top. So I just kept adapting the puddle that I had. I had to remember which colors I used to mix it. And the colors that I'm using, by the way, are the 3 on the top and the 3 on the bottom in this little palette. That's the Daniel Smith Essentials set, and I'm going to be using that in the class for my once a month videos. For the in-between ones, so the class is going to have on the first of the month a video, and it'll be teaching something like this, but a lot slower. And then each of the other ones will be having some demonstration pictures in there. It won't be video throughout the whole year, but you'll get every single week on the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st, you'll get more pages from me with more tips in it. And we'll have challenges. So each week I'll send you out to go either find something, like go find 3 mushrooms or flowers or leaves or whatever. It might be a challenge that might come from something like this. And we'll talk about how that plays out when you're trying to journal something that way. So I'm slowly making my way down here to the bottom. Slow the camera back down. It's just a lot of background, so I sped that up for you. And I added a little contrast into the underside, the gills of that tall mushroom under the cap. I've got my painting portion just about done, but I was going to try something else, and I was kind of playing around with the colors here to try to see if I could mix a gray color. And the color on the left was just too strong, so I started another puddle. And when you're trying to make a neutral, just red, blue, and yellow. So I mixed a color that was just kind of grayish, and I wanted a light wash in each of these boxes, just so there's something in there, and putting a little bit at the top and then using water to bring all that down. We'll just give it something in the boxes so that there's not just big white boxes left over. You could put a color in there if you wanted. If you're the person that wants lots of punch of color, those would be great places to put it. But notice that my painting's not perfect in the background. Just going to let it dry. And even if it's not perfect, I'm okay with that because we have tools at our hand. We can fix things. I can take a white pen. This is a white Copic Acrea pen. And I can fix any places where I painted over some of the letters. I could do all kinds of doodling into that background with a pen, and no one will know that I had an area in there that, wasn't perfect. So we'll do some of that when we get to that portion of the video. I always include some facts. As I said, I like to Google what I find. I started out by looking through the iNaturalist app to identify what kinds of mushrooms these were. And the app had some suggestions. So I had to do a little more research online because some of them had more specific information in the app. Some of them didn't. And some of them were actually not correct in the app. So those are made by AI. So you don't always get the right answer. But if you start Googling for it, you find some like scientific websites that have details. That usually is going to tell you what exactly it might be. I added some doodling to mine, and sometimes I do all the pen and ink work first and then the watercolor, and sometimes I do the watercolor and then the pen and ink, and then gosh, I can't talk. Sometimes I do the pen and ink and then some watercolor and then more pen and ink and then maybe more watercolor. It doesn't matter. If you're using a pen that is waterproof, then you're going to be fine with it no matter where you end up putting the pen work. Just make sure everything's dry before you switch from one to the other. The pens I'm using here are Rotring pens, and you can also use, if you want to go cheap, you can go for micron pens. Those are fabulous for doing this kind of work. But I'll be using my Rotring pens during the videos, but you can definitely, I've put microns in the list of supplies in the pre-class lesson, so you're welcome to use anything you want. So number 9, my tip is to entertain yourself with science. As I said, you can Google the specific, plant or fungi or animal or whatever, but I just Googled mushrooms, fun facts. And fun facts is a really great modifier to put on stuff because they give you fun things. And I found out mushrooms are fungi, not plants, and they are more closely related to humans than plants. They breathe oxygen and exhale carbon dioxide. Some are poisonous and some are edible. And that I included even though I already knew it. Some people are also poisonous and some are just yummy and you want to hug them. All right, so next you want to mark your date and potentially your location. If you've gone to a special place or you want to remember the hike that you went on or the park you were at or something, you can include that. I've kind of found a way that I just put the date, the month and the day and the year, And then I put a little box around it somewhere on my page. Don't know if that's just something that I'm going to continue doing, but that's what I've been doing of late. And then just kind of looking at my piece to see what I'm missing. And I realized I put all the scientific name stuff in there, but I hadn't put the common names in for my mushrooms. Like, oops, how'd I miss that? So then I had to figure out where to tuck them in. And that also made me realize that I wanted to connect my text boxes to the proper mushrooms. So on one of them, I have the common name, the field mushroom, listed on the outside left. I had room for it with the little bonnet mushroom inside the box. And then the other one is going to go out here on the right-hand side. So there's all kinds of things you can learn online from science people who tell you all sorts of things about what's in your natural world around you. So let's talk for a moment about the class. It's a year of nature journaling. You can either sign up for the full year. It's going to start on January 1. Or you can sign up for a season. The season is not going to start until it's that season at my house because I'm going to be journaling as we go. And as I said, on the first of the month, there's going to be a video that's going to be about an hour long. So for the whole year, you'll get 12 hours or so of video. And then on the rest of the weeks each month, there'll just be a post that you can go and visit, and you'll learn something from it. You'll get a challenge from it, whatever. You can share your work over in Art Venture, and we can see what everybody's doing. I can't wait to see what everybody else is journaling. But you can sign up now, pre-register for the class. The pre-class lesson is open, so you can see the supplies that are there. There is a video there, and there's some stuff to do while you're waiting for the class to start in January. And yeah, you can sign up for the whole thing or just a quarter of it. And if you sign up for one season, then you decide, oh my goodness, I need to do the rest of the year, then just email me. And once you purchase the rest of the year, purchase the whole thing, I'll refund that one that you signed up for first. So you can sign up for one just as a test if you want to see if this is enjoyable. All right, that's it for me today. Happy opening day of pre-registration for nature journaling. I'll see you guys later. Bye.